is over here. And Nadia, our beautiful Nadia. Where is Nadia? There she is. There's my brother Tom. He's next in line. And we are, of course, blessed with two other daughters. They're not here tonight, but Inga and Luba. And while I'm thinking of it, a good story about the girls when they first came from Russia at ages 6, 7, and 9. It was a day, I don't know what the problem was. Maybe Nani was not quite 7, Luba was 8. And they were both crying under their beds. And I was standing there, trying to resolve the problem. And they'd learned, most pretty good English at that point. And but Luba, which is the short name for Lubov, which means love. Nadezhda is Nani's full Russian name, which means hope. And Inga means Inga. But they were under the bed, and I don't know what the problem was, but particularly trying to help Luba. Of course, she didn't think I was trying to help her, I'm sure. But in her best English at the time, she said, Papa no good, Mama no good, America no good. And that story still makes me laugh. So the question is, how did we come about to decide to have this party? And I can tell you, it was before the pandemic set in on us. And I was up in the bedroom talking to Shelley. And, I wasn't feeling very good. I had like a cold or, I don't know, I wasn't real sick, but I looked at myself in the mirror and I thought it looked like I had some bags under my eyes, And I said to Shelley, I said, I think I've got some bags under my eyes. Do I look sick to you? She said, no, you just look really old. So then I decided, well, we better have a party before, And of course, these few remarks, don't let me go more than 5 minutes here. These remarks, I've reduced 60 years of life to 2 sides of a 3x5 card here. The next big juncture hopefully won't be an obituary that's 3 inches long. But that's how we decided to have the party. Or that was the impetus, life needs to be led. And of course, this pandemic's been really difficult for everybody, particularly, I think, people who are kind of shut in their lives, don't have a lot of social connections. And, I'm from the Life Has to Go On camp. And so I didn't want to wait till next year when, some official with a mask on tells us the pandemic is over. So I just said, we're going to have a party. And so thank you to Chef Jack Albenzi and the staff. And of course, this great band, So, the 60 years condensed, Tom, my brother, 1.5 years older than me, what do we have, in life to owe it all to our parents? Ken and Betty. Right after I talked earlier and got a little choked up, Nani said, Papa, what are you getting choked up for? I said, I don't know, I'm just getting old. I'm a sentimental fool. But, we had an idyllic youth in Bethesda, Maryland, and we do have 2, I think our distance driving champions, Mike and Cindy Prentice, came up from Bethesda, Maryland to be with us. So our youth was spent, playing cops and robbers and cowboys and Indians and army. And, when I was 7 years old, I got a pocket knife for my birthday and lost it, and probably got one for Christmas and lost that one, and got one when I was 8. And of course, that was back in the 60s. Well, now, in the 21st century, if a kid shows up at school with a little pocket knife that says Camp King on it, it gets suspended for a year from school. So what that really boils it all down to is, in some respects, as much as I love this country, we have kind of like turned into wimps in some respects. That really bugs me. The youth, of course, was, playing on all these teams, and, I was a bench warmer, and that was in the prime, up through, say, age 12, then, riding the bench. But then when you get into junior high and high school, there was no room on the bench for me. I was cut, And, but I think I've beat most of these guys I played with a long time. I'm still playing basketball. Most of these guys who made the team, they can stop playing basketball after they got out of high school. I'm losing my point here. Getting into junior high and high school, if you look back on some of those pictures, there's a picture of me when I'm like 3 years old with a set of cowboy boots in the picture. There's a picture of me with a cowboy hat on, I think I was 2 years old or something like that. And then, of course, the Dallas Cowboys were the center of my world at that time. And anything Texas, was great. My brother Tom went to Texas, drove across country, brought me a real Western hat back from Texas when I was 16. When I graduated from high school, my friend Ken Loeb, rest in peace, we drove to Texas to celebrate our graduation from high school. And I went to Luckenbach, Texas. And there was nothing in Luckenbach, Texas, but it made for a good song. So then I went off to college. How my dad did it on that grade 13 salary, put 6 kids through college. But he did it. Pretty impressive. Then after college, had that accounting degree. And accounting seems really interesting in college, the theory of it. And boy, I just found it so boring when I got out of college. There were no computers back then, really, so you were still, balancing trial balances with, 10-key adding machines and columnar paper. And thank God I applied to the FBI and, was lucky enough to become an FBI agent for 180 years. I'm sorry, 23 years. So that was great, and, really deserving some comment. I went to, drove from the East Coast out to Oregon to report to Eugene, Oregon, the resident agency, my first office. And I tried to see a lot of the national parks on the way out, and there's a picture up there of a bar that had a post and beam construction, and I think the stools are wood, like from tree stumps, and that was kind of what I got Slim to sing the Lost Highways Saloon about. That bar was called the Loading Chute, C-H-U-T-E bar, like they use in cattle ranching, and it was such a neat place. That was 1987, so now, in the year 2020. In the year 2020, now we're left with, chain restaurants and laminated menus everywhere. But that was just a really neat place. Get to Eugene, Oregon, and I had the great privilege to work under the supervisor, Lynn Enyart, who to me is the ultimate FBI agent. I mean, he was just so good at everything and such a great leader. And, I owe my competence, to having worked for him. There were like 7 of us in the resident agency. And that was really great. Then I get transferred to New York. I got pigeonholed on a white-collar crime, squad. And that was great, too. And New York was a lot of fun.
Hey, Dad, did you clean up all the white-collar crimes in the store? How'd that go?
No, a lot of people slipped through the cracks in that business. Yeah. And was in New York for 5 years, and then transferred to Washington, D.C., and the Washington field office. And after a couple years there, I met Shelley, which was the best stroke I'd had. We got married 19 years ago, and although I talk about Lynn Enyart, I got to talk about my dad for a long time. There's one person, met him just over in Europe, who deserves mention. We went on a tour of France, a motor coach tour, and on our tour was a man named Larry Ashley. Grew up in southeastern Ohio during the Depression. And when we were almost, excuse me, that's what the water's for. When we almost got to Omaha Beach, we were going to Omaha Beach to see the military cemetery there. Our tour guide, who was a Frenchman, he gave Larry the microphone, at the front of the bus. And fortunately, Larry got up there and started talking. He was 80 years old, he was in his late 70s. He was the same age as my dad then, so. But he'd come back to see where, the cemetery, because he, 3 hours into D-Day, drove his Sherman tank 3 feet underwater up onto the beach. And it was just so riveting to listen to this. So he talked about how growing up in southeastern Ohio, he was abandoned by his mother when he was 2. They were so broke that the mother ran off with the Iceman. Then when he was 10, his grandparents abandoned him and his father, and his brother, Jimmy, said, well, we just can't take care of you kids anymore. You're going to have to go fend for yourselves. So Jimmy and Larry, they started hitching freights, like these old country songs, catching a freight. That's what they did. And, things like going to the peach packing plant and eating the peaches that got thrown out. That's how they got by. So one day, Larry and Jimmy were on the railroad, and a train was coming this way, and a train was coming the other way. And, Larry's like 10 and Jimmy's 8 during the Depression. And Jimmy says, well, I'm going to go this way. Well, Larry said, no, I'm going this way. Well, Jimmy got on the train and never saw each other after that. So while Larry was in Europe, he was wounded. He went to a hospital in England. And he's laying there in his hospital bed, and Jimmy, Larry hears this voice, and he says, Jimmy, is that you? And he takes a look, and there's his brother Jimmy in the hospital bed next to him. And so I said to Larry, I said, did that really reaffirm your belief in God? And he said, no. He said, I have always had a very strong belief in God. And it was just to meet somebody like that made a huge impression on me. We're going into that 5 minutes a little deep. So now this moves up. Okay, you're married and all that. Honeymoon's over. But, then how many years was it? Let's see. We were married for how many years before the girls? I can't even remember. 2001 to 2007. 6 years, and then we, were privileged, not being able to have our own children, to be able to go to Russia and bring these girls home from the orphanage. And so we're very fortunate. And that's the end of my 3x5 cards. But thank you. I kind of left something out. This is only 30 seconds. But this country music, when I said, it's the Dallas Cowboys, Texas, country music. My musical idol was Jerry Lee Lewis, the Killer. And so I just, when my brother Tom was listening to Springsteen and classic rock and in the late 70s in high school. I was listening to country music. And to jump forward, after we moved here and I took a look at the weekend section, there was a picture of Slim Forsyth, that Western hat, in the entertainment section, and I read it, and it said, Slim Forsyth will be singing Hank Williams music, and I said, oh my God, I hardly ever get out. I'm gonna go see Slim Forsyth up at Needs Hotel. So I go up to Needs Hotel, and that was the first night I met my friend Alexis back there, and Tony's here, and some of the others from the Slim Train, as we call it. Remember the Elvis train? And Jimmy Need, and that's, I've always loved country music, or country western, or some people say country and western music, but it's been such a big part of my life that, with this pandemic, life is so boring. I just really wanted to get out here and listen to some country music, and really didn't want to make it all about me tonight, but I'm very fortunate, to have made it this far in my life, and I'm gonna let Slim get his microphone back now.
I just want to say that having a friend and a fan like Dan Hazer is truly one of the chief joys of my life. I've been blessed with all kinds of fabulous friends, fabulous musicians, and pals like you, Dan. And Dan made this all happen. He made this all happen, so thanks. All right, we're going to get up here and play some more, and then we have a couple of, we've got to get our instruments on, darling. And then we're going to